The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Phoenix, Arizona, on your new fire apparatus, job number 33895. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Starting on the passenger side front bumper face, you'll find 2 latches, allowing you to drop down the front bumper section, gaining access to the front inlet. Just inside of that location, you'll find your PA speaker sirens. On the driver's side bumper face, you'll find dual air horns. You'll also find on the bumper extension, side-facing emergency warning lights. Moving up onto the bumper extension, you'll find a D handle, allowing you to gain access inside to the 1.5-inch swivel discharge. As we move up onto the face of the body, you'll find your marker turn indicator. Just inside of that, you'll find your headlight structure housing the low and high beam. High beam is on the inside. Also on the passenger side, you'll find a side-facing camera. Moving inward of that location, you'll find emergency warning lights forward-facing. Directly behind the Pierce logo is where you'll find the release mechanism for your hood. Let's move up onto the windshield, where you'll find a seamless one-piece windshield. There are 3 windshield wipers across that face. And as we move to the outer edge, you'll find your mirror housing a flat and convex section. Let's take a look at the top portion. On the brow, you'll find 5 clearance lights located directly in the center, a forward-facing floodlight. As we move up onto the roof of the apparatus is where you'll find your emergency warning light bar. And then sitting just above that light bar, you'll find on the passenger and driver's side the 2 go lights. Let's take a look at some close-ups of things we just talked about. First, starting with the front inlet on the passenger side. Once we open that compartment, you'll find the inlet. As we move now to the center section, you'll find your front discharge. It is foam and water capable. Just inside, you'll find that swivel 1.5-inch discharge. Moving to the Pierce logo, directly behind it is where you'll find the latch to release the hood. And as we move to the headlight structure, you'll find low and high beam. High beam is on the inside. Moving now to the driver's side, in the step well, you'll find your shoreline inlet. This is a 30-amp plug. It does have a indicator when it's been plugged in and it is active. Let's move directly behind the cab, where you'll start with the body. This is the midsection. We're going to find 3 crosslays, number 1, number 2, and number 3. We'll go ahead and start now with some of the information in the gauge area. First, let's start with a warning label here regarding entanglement hazard. Because of those lines coming off, there is the possibility for entanglement. Moving to the right, you'll find your master pump intake gauge located on the left-hand side. Just to the right, you'll find your master pump discharge gauge. And then nestled between the 2 of those, you're going to find your vacuum and pressure test gauge ports. They're currently plugged. Let's now take a look at some engine information. Around the outer edge of this area in the gray, you're going to find your oil, water, volts, and fuel. Directly located at the very top, you'll find, if illuminated, it would be a check transmission light. It would be amber in color. You also have an amber check engine light that's on the far right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, if illuminated, it would be in red. It is a stop engine light. There are also additional diagnostic information for oil, battery, water temp, and low fuel on each side of the gauge structure. Located directly in the center is the tachometer, and below the tachometer you'll find an audible alarm. That audible alarm does have the ability to have the sound dampened by turning the outer edge of the bezel. Just a quick look at the pump panel. Let's first start in the upper left-hand corner, where you'll find a set of switches. First, starting with an indicator light that you have properly engaged your pump, you'll find the OK to pump light indicator on. We also have rear scene lights, some spares above and below that area, and also driver's side scene lights, passenger side scene lights, and also a reel rewind. There's also some discharges here, crosslay 1, 2, and 3, and then also your reel discharge. Just a quick close-up here. This is the OK to pump. It would be green if illuminating, that you've properly engaged your pump, ready for pump operations. Moving further to the right, you'll find an electronic valve here, which is your deluge discharge, with also a gauge just to the right of that. Moving further right, you're going to find your primer for the front intake. Best practices, 1,000 RPMs. That's a note down below.
You'll also find an open and closed indicator for that front inlet. And then you'll also find the Hale thermal relief valve. That's going to indicate a hot pump. It's automatic. There's also an audible alarm just above that. It does have the ability to dampen that sound. Simply turn the outside of that bezel. To the right, you'll find your driver's side 2.5 pre-connect and also passenger side 2.5-inch pre-connect. And they'll get a warning label here regarding fall hazard. Moving down, we'll talk a little bit about this at great length. This is your pressure throttle governor. We'll talk about that in the next few moments. But just to the right, you'll find in green, this is your foam A tank indicator, the amount of foam that's in the tank. Moving to the right, you'll find your front discharge, once again, water and foam capable. And then moving further to the right, you're going to find a twist. This is your engine cooler. And then all the way to the far right, the lever indicating your tank fill and recirculating line. Let's move back over to the red module where you're going to find your Husky foam system. There are instructions on that placard itself, and please see your owner's manual for more information. Moving further to the right, you're going to find your fire pump primer. Once again, Air Prime instructions 1000 for best practices. Just beneath that, you'll find your Pierce placard. This is regarding your test pressures, and we'll talk about that in a few moments also. And then to far right-hand side, lower section, you'll find your tank to pump. This is your pressure throttle governor. In the upper left-hand corner, if illuminated, it would be yellow, and it is a check engine or amber color. Located in the center, you'll find a digital readout for the RPMs. Further to the right, if illuminated, it would be in red. It is a stop engine. Just beneath that, you'll find all of your diagnostic information on your engine. This is kind of secondary to the gauge that we just talked about, but there's also indication here for pump temperature. That's the far right-hand side. As we move down, you'll find the blue module. This is your water tank level indicator. And then we move to the right, you'll find the red silence button. This will silence the audible alarms. Moving further down, you'll find the orange menu button. This allows you to scroll through the various menu functions of this device. There are two options you have, either pressure control or throttle control. There is information in the center regarding that digital readout, and how you get to those different settings is through the control mode. That's the blue button. To the right, if you've properly engaged, you'll find the throttle ready, which will be green. And then further to the right, you'll find a green preset button, which allows you to operate presets that are programmed prior to operation. You'll also find your throttle, which will be right to increase and left to decrease. If you'd like to move to idle, you can just simply push the red area in the very center. Let's go ahead and move through some of the other items. As we move lower down, you'll find the number 2 passenger side and number 4 passenger side. As we move further to the right, this is your placard that we talked about earlier. And I'll go through that in just a few minutes, but I just want to point out some of the other items. We do have another audible alarm here on the outer edge. Once again, that bezel can be dampened. I do have a warning label here regarding only trained personnel should operate this equipment only after they receive proper training. This is the information here regarding your Husky Foam System 3. It's the specifications and also instructions. This is for your minimum operation maintenance schedule. It coincides with the numbers we'll just talk about in a few moments. And then also, we talked a little bit earlier about your tank to pump. And then just beneath that, you're going to find your pump drain. This is your master pump drain. And further to the right, you'll find a visual water level indicator. Down at the very bottom, you'll find the placard here from Watrous ending the type of style of pump that you have for your apparatus. Let's go ahead and go back to that Pierce minimum operation maintenance schedule. First, 150, 200, and 250 psi are the NFPA test pressures. On the left is the associated GPM with your pump, and on the right are the RPMs. Those coincide with that test pressure with a governed speed of 2,400 RPMs. As we move further down, you can have a CSU pump. It is 1,500 GPM, and you can see in the upper right-hand corner has serial information numbers. As we move further down, you'll find your air supply and air inlet outlet. That's the control in the upper section. This is your manual pump shift to the right-hand side, and then also primer drain. And you'll see across the very bottom all your associated color-coded, and they're also labeled drains for all of your discharges. Let's go ahead and move just to the right-hand side where you'll find this warning label regarding foam failure and don't mix different brands or consistencies of foam. You'll also find your foam information here for drafting and tank fill. And then as we move just to the right, you'll find your intercom system. This is a push to talk and then a location to plug in your headset system. Behind the pan door, you'll find this configuration of foam fill operations. The yellow handle coincides with the information on the exterior of the door. As you move to the upper portion of the image, you're going to find your foam drain. That's a twist, not a pull. Let's go ahead and move down to the very bottom. This is just underneath the running board. You'll find your foam pump intake drain and foam pump discharge drain. We're going to now move to the body of the apparatus. We'll cover some of the compartments, but just as a quick reminder, your compartments do have LED lighting and also roll-up compartment doors and adjustable shelving. Let's go ahead and move just upward in the same compartment. We're going to find the breaker box for the S1, which stands for shore power. This is for the receptacles for your battery charger, and also 2 and 4 for the air compressor and air conditioner. As we move just in front of the rear axle, you'll find SCBA bottle storage location. Moving to the center section, this is just over the rear wheel. You'll find an additional compartment here, LED lighting also. As we move just to the rear of the axle, you'll find your ultra low sulfur diesel. That's the silver cap. As we drop the lid down, protective cover, you can see exposes the blue cap, which is an 8-gallon diesel exhaust fluid DEF tank. Let's move now to the very furthest compartment in the rear. You have adjustable shelving, LED lighting. In the upper corner, you're going to find these 12-volt access points. These are for future 12-volt access, red and black for negative and positive. As we move to the rear section of the apparatus, you're going to find emergency warning lights on the lower section. The upper section is going to house your brake, turn, and reverse light. Just inside of that location, you're going to find a cupped switch. This will activate the lights within the hosebed area. Got a close-up here of that. It is a momentary switch, so you just click on to activate. It is hosebed lights once again. Let's go ahead and move up from this location where you'll find 2 pan doors. These 2 compartments, we'll talk about the contents behind those, behind the D handles. And at the very top here, we're going to find emergency warning light. Let's take a look inside the compartment. You can see backboard storage and additional ladder storage, and also long-handled tool storage. Let's move to the very center. We're going to find some warning labels here regarding fall hazard. As we move to the center, we're going to find an entanglement hazard because of those hoses from above. And then let's move further to the right where you're going to find an additional warning here regarding fall hazard that you shouldn't ride on the rear of the apparatus while it's in motion. Let's move to the very center. You're going to find a third LED brake light. And then moving just above that brake light, you're going to find your backup camera. It's recessed just above that area. Let's go ahead and move now from this location downward. This is the roll-up door in the center compartment, LED lighting, adjustable shelving. As we move to the opposite side, you're going to find the location for your 24-foot extension and 14 roof. And at the very top, you'll find your 10-foot attic. As we move now up into the hosebed area, this is the passenger side. You'll find a 2.5-inch discharge. You're also going to find in this same image here, we have at the very top 4 compartments, just imaging of one of them at this point. As we move to the driver's side, the same configuration, 2.5-inch discharge on this side, and then also here just an image of that top compartment. Let's take a look. We'll see the rear section. You'll find LED lighting in these compartments, also in these hatch compartments, and same thing on the other side. There are 4 total hatch compartments in the very top section of your apparatus. Let's move now to the dunnage area, where we'll talk a little bit about some of the items there. Let's go ahead and start at the very top in the hatch compartment near the dunnage. We're going to find a couple of items here. First, when plugged into shore power, this plug is activated. That's that receptacle that we talked about earlier off the S1. It does power your air compressor for your maintaining your brake pressure. It also powers your 12-volt battery charger, which is located on the right here, which you can see now. Let's move further in the dunnage area to the next section where you're going to find your water fill. This is the top fill locations for your water tank. And as we move to the right, this is the top fill location for your foam tank. There is an indication on the foam tank also, just as we had down on the pump panel, that you should not mix different brands or consistencies of foam for the possibility of foam failure. As we move further up, you're going to find your reel. On the outside edge of that reel, you're going to find a wheel that allows you to tension or release tension. At the very top, you're also going to find a manual rewind location. As we move further to the right, you're going to find your master stream device. It does have an extended gun located in the very center area. There are instructions also just above the on-off switch here of the electronic valve. And as we move to the right, you'll find your Husky 3 foam reservoir. That's located on the right-hand side next to the discharge. Here's an electronic valve here indicating the percentage of open and close. and then at the very top, the extended gun. On the right-hand side, you're going to find your Husky fill location. This is for your foam system hydraulic reservoir. Let's take a look at the cab area. We'll talk a little bit about some of the items here as we move forward. This is a non-walking surface, so there's these warning labels here because of slip hazard. You should not walk in that area. Just beneath that, you'll also find some back of the cab here, some additional lighting for your crosslays. Here's an image now of the 3 crosslays that we mentioned earlier. Let's go ahead and start and move around to the side of the apparatus. We'll start with those items next. We're on the passenger side of the vehicle in the very rear compartment. You can see LED lighting, adjustable shelving. We also have those 12-volt access points located in the upper right-hand corner in this compartment. Let's move just down to the rear section of the rear axle where you'll find an additional fill location. This is for diesel fuel, ultra-low sulfur. It's the silver cap. Just above that silver cap or access point, you're going to find SCBA bottle storage location. Moving now to the center compartment, emergency light in the lower section, LED lighting inside. Let's move now to the forward of the rear axle where we'll find 2 additional SCBA bottle storage locations with retaining straps. As we move to the next compartment forward, same configuration. We have those 12-volt access blocks at the very top, negative and positive. Let's take a look at the side of the pump panel area on the passenger side. A couple of warning labels within this area. First, entanglement hazard because of those hoses coming from a loft. We also have a fall injury that you shouldn't ride on the side of the apparatus. And then we also have an extremely hot exhaust pipe on the left-hand side. It is protected, but we do place this warning label here also. Moving to the right, you're going to find that pressure hazard warning. Be cautious when opening caps that may be under pressure. We also have an access panel here. We'll cover that next. As we open the door and gain access, this is where you're going to find your intake relief valve. There are instructions for operations on the actual placard. As we move to the left, you're going to find your passenger side auxiliary inlet. This is the wheel valve. It is also indicating on that wheel valve the amount of percentage it opens. Down the lower side, you'll find your large diameter pump intake. And on the right, you're going to find your passenger side light switches and also reel rewind. You do have 2 discharges located on this side. They're both 2.5-inch discharges. One is foam capable and the other is not. As we move further down, you'll find all their color-coded associated discharge drains. Moving to the right, you're going to find a direct tank fill. And then just to go back now to the exhaust, once again, right next to it, you'll also find the garden hose outlet. Just underneath, you'll find your manifold drain. And let's go ahead and move now to the cab itself, where we're going to find at all points of entry the keyed operation for the door locks and latches. And then we're also going to find grab handles for gaining entry and exiting the cab for firefighter safety. You'll also find 2 emergency warning lights, one on the rear section of the cab, one directly over the front tire. Let's go inside the cab area. At all points of entry, you'll find additional warning labels affixed to the door panel. There's also in the rear section of the cab these red grab handles which gain access in and out of the cab for firefighter safety. Located directly in the center to the rear section of the engine, you'll also find an access panel. This is for gaining access for your transmission and oil daily checks. As we look to the very rear section, you'll find your seat riser. There are additional storage locations. You can gain access from the side, or you can also gain access from the 2 front locations directly under the seats. Overhead, you'll find your headset system plugins for your intercom system and also radio. Looking overhead, you can see your 12-volt air conditioner and also your 110 air conditioner. As we move back down to the pedestal area for those 2 center-mounted seats, you'll find access panels. On the outer edge of the door, you'll also find light switches for turning on lights inside the cab in the rear section. Between the 2 seats, you'll find access panels. These 2 access panels happen to be your shoreline inlet and also for your air conditioner module. As we move to the opposite side, you'll find your radio housing location. Let's move now to the officer seat, where we're going to find, once again, affixed to the door panel, your warning labels. This vehicle is also equipped with a supplemental restraint system and airbag, so please don't block or mount anything within this area for operations of your airbag. You do have a glove box just underneath the dash area. As we move now to the upper left-hand side, forward of the windshield area, you're going to find a LED light for map light, and then to the right, you'll also find an additional grab handle. Moving over to the left, you'll find your electronic siren, air horn, 12-volt access, and a radio push-to-talk. Moving forward to that location, you're going to find 12-volt access. This is USB style. And then just forward of that location, your vehicle data recorder. As we look overhead, just a quick glimpse, we'll start with some of the items here within this area. First, let's start with the switch panel, starting with the front floodlights, cab rear scene lights, driver's side scene lights, passenger side scene lights, and rear scene lights. There are also 3 future switches if they are needed. Moving just to the left, you're going to find a digital readout for your speedometer, and then just to the right over the officer's area, you're going to find your Go Light control. It's an on-off switch with a joystick that will control the overhead spotlight. Moving to the left, directly in the center, is where you're going to find this light indicating do not move your apparatus. You may have a compartment or door open. Just over that area, you'll find your AM/FM radio. And as we move now to the driver's area, once again affixed to the door panels, you're going to find those warning labels. Also, you'll find information here regarding seatbelt and the use of those seatbelts. And then down at the lower right-hand corner, difficult to see in this image, there is a yellow placard. We'll go over that placard next. This is your manufactured from Pierce for the city of Phoenix. You can see it has a 5-digit job number, -01 in that sequence, gross vehicle weight rating information, cold tire inflation, the VIN number. You'll also find information here on the components, fluid capacity, and fluid types. Let's move down to about the left foot of the operator, where you'll find your air horn and mechanical siren foot pedals. About the left knee of the operators, where you're going to find the tech module. Also find the engine, transmission, ABS diagnostic port. And then further to the right, you'll find the display port. These are for maintenance. As we move further down, you'll find 2 switches. First, ABS diagnostics and engine diagnostics, once again for maintenance personnel. And as we move further down, you'll find your regen inhibit and DPF regen. Let's move up from this location where you'll find the master battery switch. It's the red switch on the left-hand side, quarter turn for on. As we move up from that location, you'll find your hazard lights. Just down from that, you'll find the ignition and start switch. Moving just inside of that location to the left of the steering column, you'll find a small switch labeled EM, that stands for Emergency Master, that will control all of your emergency lights. Also moving to the right, you'll find your headlight and driving lights. In addition, you'll find panel rocker switch to brighten or dim the panel lights within the dash area. You'll also find on the opposite side of the steering column the OK to engage your high idle switch and indicator. As we move to the dash cluster, you'll find your transmission, DEF, oil, and water temperature on the left. On the right, you'll find the volts, fuel, front and rear air with the speedometer and tachometer directly in the center. Diagnostic information will display above and below the speedometer. Let's move to the right now, just a general view of the operator's purview. First, let's start in the upper right-hand corner. This is going to be your system parking brake, pull to apply and push to release. Those are for your air brakes. And to the right, you'll find your Pierce command zone. Tremendous amount of information right at your fingertips here. Please see your owner's manual for more information. You'll also find your Allison transmission pad with information to pump and drive. And to the right, you'll find your engine brake on-off switch, your engine brake for low or high, a push-to-talk switch for your radio communications, and also a mirror heat. Moving further to the right, you'll find your pump shift. There's instructions here from road to pump, and then from pump to road. For pumping operations, you need 2 green indicators, one OK to pump and pump engage prior to exiting the cab for pump operations. Moving just up from this location, you're going to find the passenger side Go Light. This is the control module. See the switch and then also a red indicator light indicating it's on, and then the joystick. Moving further up, you'll find your mirror controls for the flat and convex mirror on the passenger and driver's side. You do have heat, air conditioning, and defrost located in the very center for climate control. This is your mobile awareness device located directly in view of the operator. Overhead, you'll find this yellow placard indicating the height 10 feet 1 inch, the length 32 feet 5.25 inches, and a gross vehicle weight rating of 44,800 pounds. If you make any adjustments or change anything within your apparatus, please update this placard. Let's move further to the right. We'll identify a few switches here. First, starting with the Emergency Master, roof light, front warning lights, side warning lights, lower rear warning, upper rear warning, siren brake, and electronic siren. When any of those have been depressed, the outer edge will illuminate. Moving further to the right, we're going to find your front flood, cab scene, driver's side scene, passenger side scene, rear scene, and also your load manager. Let's move further to the right. We will find your siren control and PA speaker system. As we take a look to the rear, you'll find the 2 seats. General view inside the rear section of the cab. Let's look overhead in the same vicinity. You'll find your air conditioner located in the center. This is your 12-volt air conditioner while your apparatus is running. While plugged into shore power, the additional air conditioner will operate. As you can see, just overhead of the 2 seat locations, you'll find push on and off white and red lights. Congratulations, Phoenix, Arizona, job number 33895. If you have any questions regarding your apparatus, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and congratulations.